Welcome to The Explainer. I want you to think back to the last time you read a picture book to a child. I'm willing to bet that at some point you found yourself enthusiastically mooing like a cow or maybe roaring like a lion, right? We all do it. It feels completely natural, a little bit silly, and honestly, it's just a fun way to get a toddler to smile. But what if I told you that those playful noises are actually doing some serious heavy lifting in a child's developing brain? Today, we're stripping away the baby talk to look at the absolutely fascinating, structured world of foundational learning.
Okay, let's dive into this. Why on earth is a lion's roar crucial for a child's brain? I know, it sounds like a massive exaggeration, doesn't it? We usually think of animal sounds as just a form of play, a way to pass the time before the quote-unquote real learning of the alphabet and grammar kicks in. But cognitive science and structured early learning programs, well, they tell us a completely different story. Today, we're going to bridge that gap between the silly noises we make sitting on the living room floor and the very real, measurable cognitive development that they trigger.
So here is our literal lesson plan for today's explainer. 1. The power of animal sounds. 2. Meeting the jungle animals. 3. Singing and moving. 4. Engaging animal games. And 5. Crafting the perfect lesson.
Let's start with Section 1, the power of animal sounds. We're going to focus heavily on the why before we get to the how.
Why are these sounds the universal starting point for early educators everywhere? Let's establish some academic credibility right off the bat with this insight from researchers at Western University. They literally describe learning animal sounds as, quote, a unique way to help children develop new words, concepts, and cognitive skills. I really want you to absorb that. It's not just a cute activity, it's a completely unique linguistic mechanism. By making these noises, kids are actually performing serious cognitive work.
Let's break down exactly what that academic insight means in practice. First up, it develops new words. A moo, or a roar, is often one of the very first recognizable, repeated phonemes a child will ever produce. It's literally training their mouth and vocal cords. Secondly, it builds conceptual understanding. A child learns that a specific sound maps to a specific entity. A dog barks, a bird tweets. They're learning the fundamentals of categorization. Third, it enhances essential cognitive skills like memory and recall. And finally, it beautifully bridges the gap between natural, instinctive development and the structured learning environments they're going to enter soon. These sounds aren't just play, they are absolutely crucial linguistic stepping stones.
Moving right along to Section 2, Meet the Jungle Animals. Let's move from theory into our visual sandbox.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how those vibrant colors and distinct shapes act as anchors. Think about it. When a teacher introduces the word tiger and the sound roar, they need a highly recognizable, friendly visual to tie it to. Vibrant visual aids, like this Corkatoon coloring book cover, take those abstract sounds just floating around in the air and anchor them solidly to concrete, identifiable shapes in a child's mind.
And when we put these images side by side, we uncover another vital learning tool, visual contrast. Just look at the massive, round shape of the elephant on the left paired with its long trunk. Then contrast that with the sleek body and sharp, spiky mane of the lion on the right. For early learners, especially ESL students, these exaggerated sensory cues are a game changer. They learn to associate that loud trumpeting sound with the giant round animal and the fierce roar with the spiky mane. This visual contrast is what helps them differentiate complex concepts.
You might also notice something very specific about their faces. Look closely at the monkey and the tiger here. They're smiling. They have these large, expressive, super friendly eyes. Even traditionally scary predators like a tiger are deliberately drawn to look approachable, and that's no accident. For young minds to take risks, like trying out brand new sounds and words in front of a class, the environment has to feel incredibly safe and enticing. Friendly expressions completely lower the barrier to participation. Let's jump into Section 3, Singing and Moving. This is where we explore our actionable toolkit and see how physical movement actually cements concepts in the brain.
I want you to just imagine the bustling, wonderful chaos of a preschool classroom for a second. This is a mapping from an ESL Kid Stuff lesson plan for a song called Let's Go to the Zoo. Notice the structure we've got here. We don't just say lion and roar. No, we say lion, we roar, and we physically make a fierce face. For the elephant, we use our arm to make a trunk. For the monkey, we're scratching our heads and armpits going, ooh, ooh. The kids are mapping the vocabulary directly to the sound, and then mapping that sound to a very specific physical gesture.
So, the crucial point is this. Multisensory learning is the secret engine powering these fun, seemingly simple songs. By forcing the brain to simultaneously process an auditory cue, the word and the sound,
a visual cue from the teacher or a flashcard, and a kinesthetic cue from their own body's movement, the vocabulary is literally locked into their early memory. It transforms from a boring, rote memorization task into a completely full-body experience.
Section 4. Engaging animal games. Let's see how structured play takes these isolated sounds and turns them into highly interactive learning.
Early childhood educators use a very specific arsenal of games, and each one targets a totally different cognitive milestone. Look at this awesome progression. First, you have Pass the Animals, where kids sit in a circle, pass a toy, say the name, and make the noise. That is pure rapid-fire association. Next is Animals Matchup Concentration, which targets memory skills. Then the Animals Walk game for total full-body immersion. And finally, What's in the Bag? A brilliantly simple game where the teacher hides an animal in a bag to spark intense curiosity and tactile learning. It's a massive hit with kids.
Let's look a little closer at the Animals Walk game. The teacher holds up a flashcard and yells, "Run like a lion!" Instantly, those students have to translate that auditory vocabulary into physical action. Picture a whole room full of 5-year-olds getting down on all fours, crawling wildly across the floor and roaring at the top of their lungs. It looks like absolute chaos, I know, but it perfectly proves that for young children, play really is the highest form of research. They are internalizing the lesson through pure action.
Which brings us to Section 5, crafting the perfect lesson. We're going to lay out a clear roadmap for deploying this.
Let's move to and see how this builds a complete day in the life of an early learner. A structured lesson plan always follows a really distinct arc. Step 1 is the warm-up. You establish a routine with the hello song and wake up the brain with a tactile discovery game. Step 2 is the core, new learning. Out come the flashcards, you sing the zoo song and play those high-energy associative games. Finally, Step 3 is the wrap-up. You bring the energy way back down with creative crafts, give a simple homework assignment, and sing the goodbye song to smoothly transition them out of the learning space.
Let's zoom in on that wrap-up phase for a second. After all those high-energy games, students really need to process what they've learned in a quieter, much more focused state. This is exactly where arts and crafts come into play. By having students sit down to color, cut, and glue the exact same animals they were just running around pretending to be, the day's lesson is totally solidified. It smoothly transitions their brain from the gross motor skills of running right down to the fine motor skills of crafting.
And this brilliantly illustrates the final piece of the puzzle, the exit strategy. At the very end of the lesson, the teacher stands right at the door. To leave the room, every single student faces a quick check. The teacher holds up a flashcard, and the student must correctly name the animal and make its noise to pass. It is a fantastic, low-stakes micro-assessment of exactly what that child retained that day. If they get it wrong, no big deal. They just hop to the back of the line and try again.
So, we've gone from silly living room noises all the way to sophisticated cognitive science. I want to leave you with this final, thought-provoking question. How do the absolute simplest noises we make with children, the moos, the roars, the hisses, shape the foundation of their future communication skills? The next time you find yourself barking like a dog for a toddler, remember, you aren't just playing around. You are quite literally helping to wire their brain for language. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.